There is so much happening in the news, and today I have two great minds in politics and pop culture here to help us make sense of it all. And I call this our Fast and Furious Hot Topics episode. These two brilliant minds are joining me coming up next.
Live from Los Angeles, this is the Special Report with Areva Martin.
I have been on vacation for the entire month of August, and I have had such an amazing time with friends and family. I actually got to see the queen, the boss, the lady, Diana Ross at the Hollywood Bowl, and what a spectacular concert. This 78-year-old woman was moving and grooving and just literally killing the stage like she was all of, say, 25 or so. I can see why Beyonce and Lizzo and so many of the modern day artists credit their careers to Diana Ross, because she is truly the queen of not just the music industry, but her glamour and her outfits. Everything was just incredible. I also got a chance to spend time with friends and my beautiful daughters on Martha's Vineyard. I did a book signing at Edgartown Bookstore, which was phenomenal. Thanks to everyone that came out and supported and helped us sell each and every book that bookstore had ordered of my book, Awakening. And next week, vacation is over, but I'm going to take off to my hometown of St. Louis. I get to go home and again be around family and friends. And this time we're going to pick up a little award. Well, I shouldn't call it a little award. It's really a big award from the St. Louis Urban League, which is giving me a Lifetime Achievement Award. Somehow I don't feel like I'm old enough to get a Lifetime Achievement Award, but I'm so honored and so grateful. And if you are in the St. Louis area and you haven't already bought a ticket to this gala, do so. It's going to be spectacular. It's one of the largest galas of the season in St. Louis. They have an incredible lineup of musicians and entertainment. Tashina Arnold and I are both getting this incredible award. So I feel really proud, and I get to see my aunts and uncles and cousins. It's going to be like a little mini family reunion for me. So super excited, but we will still be here with new episodes all of the rest of August, which I guess is in 2 days, and throughout the rest of the fall. I missed you guys, and I'm super excited to be back with my great guest and with all of you. So let's get at it. Wow, so much going on from politics to pop culture. And I couldn't think of anyone better to join me to talk about all of this news around pop culture than Jared Hill. You've seen Jared on the show before. He is the president of the National Association of Black Journalists, Los Angeles chapter, and he's also the co-host of the super popular podcast, Fanty. Good morning and welcome, Jared.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here with you. Seeing you out at the bowl recently, it's been a good time. It's been good.
It's been so much fun all summer long. If you don't live in Los Angeles, you probably don't know what the Hollywood Bowl is, but it's this incredible outdoor amphitheater that has the best entertainment all summer long. And you're under the stars, and you get to sit in these cool boxes and bring your picnic lunch, and drink wine and champagne, and just have a great time.
I've been joking that it's the only place that you can see a show and hear crickets, and it actually really works.
Absolutely.
Like it's.
Whoever designed that, kudos to them. But so much happening in the news, Jared. First, let's talk about this Annie Leibovitz photo. She's in hot water, I should say, again, for her Vogue shots of newly confirmed Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. If you look at the top, you'll see the pictures that the famed photographer Annie Leibovitz took, and then some amateur photographer decided to show Annie how to shoot Black women. He actually lightened the photographs, and they're much more flattering portrayal of our beautiful Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. What do you make of Vogue and continuing to use Annie for these high-profile photo shoots of amazing Black women?
Well, I mean, you have to think about how many Vogue covers there have been throughout the 100+ years, I believe, of Vogue, and how many of them have featured white women. and white people in general, and how few of them have featured Black faces, right? I remember hearing like Vogue having its first Black person on its cover in my adult life, right? And the handful of times that we've seen that. And so the idea that we're seeing Black folks on this cover, but they're not looking, the way that the white folks normally do on these covers, it's not that surprising, right? And I've never been like a huge Annie Leibovitz fan. I've always thought that she chose really odd photos, which I think is kind of her thing, but like they're never odd in a way that really resonates with me. And as an artist, I recognize like art is super subjective, right? But like it's never really hit for me in the ways that I want it to hit. And so like this photo of her by this major column, she looks confused, like maybe her heel was about to break. Like, I don't know what's happening in this photo. I think she looks gorgeous in this other photo with the trench, right? Like she looks fantastic in that photo. But like lighten it up, give her some color. Like I don't get it.
I had the honor myself of being photographed by Annie, many years ago. And it was also this really dark black and white photo. And at the time, I didn't really like it. But everyone around me was so super excited and, telling me what an honor it was. I got to go to her studio and spend a day in New York and, get to play dress up in all of these amazing, super expensive clothes and be shot by this famed photographer. But boy, when I saw the photo, I was like, oh, that's not me. I'm not that dark. It just didn't portray me. And I was kind of silenced by the people around me. And now I'm feeling really liberated because I'm going to pull that photo back out. I'm going to take some time in finding it. And now I can say publicly what I was feeling back then, because now, we're more vocal about things like how we look, how we are presented to the world, and particularly, our color. Ketanji is a beautiful brown-skinned woman. And we want to celebrate that. But that dark hue on that photo is like, oh, it's kind of almost dark.
First of all, I just want to respect and appreciate the flex of, I was shot by Annie Leibovitz years ago. I just want to acknowledge that. But I also
humble brag. Okay,
listen. I'm not mad at it, right? I haven't been shot by or been on the cover of anything. So, but I do think that it's an interesting conversation for us to be having now. When what do you remember? How many years ago it was? Do you want to say?
I don't know. You know what? This is how long ago. It was a magazine called Cookie Magazine. And Cookie Magazine was owned by, some big conglomerate. The magazine doesn't even exist anymore. It was at least 15 years ago.
So to that point, though, now we've had so much television and film and photography by Black photographers that is lit for Black skin, that considers Black folks in a way that is not just plugging Black folks into places where we just had normally white people, right? And lighting them the same way and dressing them the same way and expecting them to do the same hairstyles and all that, right? And so now we live in a time where we have a Supreme Court justice with sister locks, right? That is a thing. Right. Yeah. That's a moment. And so to see them continue to to not do something like that, when we've seen Beyonce on these September covers every year with different Black photographers giving her something, when we've seen Issa Rae on Insecure being lit beautifully, when we've seen Melina Matsoukas being able to direct and give us all of these wonderful ways that we can show our skin and our vibrancy, we see moments like this and we're like, okay.
Yeah, we're like, Vogue, get it together. Annie's super talented. So we know she can do better. And, I think she's just stuck in that era, like you said, when it was okay to just put us into those spaces that were meant for white, faces. Now we know better. We should do better. All right, let's move on. Talking about Black skin and how we are showing up as our authentic selves. Lil Nas showed up in his glory, this amazing Black outfit, but Black Twitter, Jared, was not having it. They were like, look, dude, do what you want to do, but you're ripping off Iman's 2021 look from the Met Gala. What do you think? Do you think that he was inspired, or do you think he was ripping her off?
Well, I mean, no fashion person is going to do that and it not be a reference, right? It is so specific. When I saw this on the carpet, before there was even a reference to Iman, I saw this and thought this is giving me Cher 1986 at the Oscars, right? Where even in the moment, it was girl, this is a lot, but I'm kind of living for it too, right? I see you, I don't get it, but I see you. And that's what this feels like, right? When we see Lil Nas X showing up on the red carpet and giving us this moment. Like, first of all, this is one of those photos that, like the red carpet photo of him, when he is like 65 years old, he's going to look back at this photo and be like, girl, we did that. We did that.
That's
you know,
me.
like
That's
you're never going to regret that.
Grandkids. That's me. That's me.
Listen, right? Like that is me. It is going to be painted in a 30-foot tall mural in the house or something, right? It's going to be crazy in that mansion that he's going to be in, I'm sure. But like, I just imagine like this is one of those photos that you're always going to be proud of, that you had worked out that day, that you didn't eat the thing, or that you did whatever you had to do to get cinched into that. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you corrected me. It's not Lil Nas, it's Lil Nas X, which is a big difference. And we want to give him his full credit for that outfit. All right, the slap, Jared, heard around the world. We all witnessed it. We all saw it played over and over and over again. And finally this summer, because we're talking about all this big news over the summer, Will Smith apologizes in this, very emotional Instagram post saying, look, it was unacceptable. I'm human. I made a horrible mistake. He apologized not only to Chris, but to Chris's mother, and revealed that he's very good friends with Tony Rock, Chris's brother, and how he knows that this assault on Chris is probably forever going to ruin that relationship with Tony Rock. Chris didn't say much, didn't respond, and now we know Chris is saying, hell no, I'm not going back to what he calls the scene of the crime. I'm not hosting next year's Oscars. So what do you make of this? Were you surprised that Chris didn't immediately respond to the apology? And do you think Chris should go back to the Oscars and, make a big moment out of it?
I think this is one of those things where everyone had really surprisingly different opinions about what happened. There were people that I was surprised were like, I'm here for it. He should have done that. And I was surprised by the people who said like they were like furious about it. And I had just finished reading Will's book when this happened. And so there were so many different elements to this story. And I feel like being Black is a big part of how you process this or has a major like impact on that. And so I think about what it's like for Will to be in this moment and to have this happen. When his book is so huge and he's like growing and having this huge resurgence. I think about what it's like for Chris Rock, right, to have to figure out how to process in the moment what to do. Because I always joke, we would have just been two slapping MFs up there, right? Like, God ain't done with me yet, right? Like, I'm still working on my relationship with Jesus because we would have been boxing. Right. It is what it is.
Well, that was the sentiment of so many. Like, we'd have been rolling on the ground, on the floor, on the carpet.
Chris is more evolved than me in this one. And I respect it. Right. And like, I aspire.
Yeah,
but like, I don't know that
he was so smooth with how he handled that. I mean, he just held it together and just kept that show moving. I mean, he was a true pro.
Yeah. We'd have been, it'd have been a whole moment up there with me, right? So, but I also think like it's a very traumatic event to have happen in front of an audience of your peers that are Hollywood superstars, right? I remember being live on the radio, sitting in a car on the phone and watching a car accident happen right in front of me. And the way that happened, and I couldn't respond to it because I was literally in the middle of a sentence talking about why Bill Maher was getting on my nerves that week. And I was on the radio and I saw it happen and I couldn't respond to it. And I was just sitting there and still talking and going. And like afterward, there was so much tension and like I just wept after that, right? Like I had a break. And like the idea of having to stand there, be slapped across the face, figure out what to do. There's a prompter, there's lights, there's 1,000 people standing here. This is being beamed around the world. I can't imagine what it's like to go through that and then have to and then be asked to come do it again. And then I think about Jada Pinkett Smith, right? Like Jada Pinkett Smith is the person at the center of all of this. Yes. This Black woman with alopecia who's been like sharing and vulnerable about her hair and what it feels like. And Chris seemingly not knowing that or whatever it was. There's a lot of trauma around just being in that room, let alone hosting, showing up, presenting, working, rehearsing, being a part. That's a lot. And so I can't imagine asking somebody to come do that again if they weren't interested.
What did you think, though, of Chris, the way he said he wasn't going to do it? Some people said he made a pretty crude joke by, making the analogy to saying that's like Nicole Brown Simpson going back to the restaurant where she left her glasses before she was murdered. So a lot of people were cringing, like, "Oh, Chris, did you have to go there? Did you have to bring up Nicole Brown?"
So that's a lot, right? It's a lot. It's a lot, Chris. We get it. But it also, like, the person who has been in a lot of therapy and watches therapy and like thinks about psychology, it says a lot to me about how Chris might be thinking about what happened in that night, right? Like, because there is a way to see this, and Chris hasn't spoken about it, so I don't know what Chris is thinking, but there is certainly a way to see this as an assassination, right? Because like immediately following this, all of the discourse around Chris Rock is going to be, he got bitch slapped at the Oscars. You let him do that to you. And like the toxic masculinity of that is something we cannot ignore. Right. And like, I don't know if Chris was making a joke or if he was trying to give us some insight into how he looks at this, but it certainly says something to me that is what he said.
That's interesting that you would say that, because he made a reference to a woman that was killed, right? A murder. So almost as if like, part of him was killed that night. It wasn't his career, obviously, because he's gone on. He's had these sold out venues where he's been doing his stand up comedy. But you talked about the toxic masculinity. So that's going to be his bros saying, man, you were bitch slapped. And then, you're going to have women who also can be pretty rough on guys like, well, you got your ass kicked on TV. So, don't come for me. So,
right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
For a single black man. For a single black man in his 50s, I believe, that's out here dating and all that kind of stuff, that's not going to go over well on a first date, right? Like, so how did that go down? Like,
everybody's
I don't want to talk
about it. Everybody's going to want his, because every time they said at these comedy shows, people are buying out the tickets because they're hoping to get a little glimpse or to hear a little something about his response. But he's been pretty mum about it. He's probably planning some big Netflix special or, some big special where he's going to talk about it. But all right.
Well, he should.
We wish Chris and Will well. I'm just glad that Will at least went through that process, because hopefully it's the road for him to, start to heal as well. Let's talk about the White House Twitter. The White House has gotten a lot of flack for having like really boring, really dry, social media. But recently, after the student loan debt, executive order was signed, the White House Twitter has been fire, calling out these Republicans who are whining and, just bitching about the $10,000 or the $20,000 relief, calling out these people, like, dropping names and dropping amounts, showing the receipts. What do you think about that? And why did it take the White House so long to get, their Twitter game on point?
Well, I think that the truth of this situation is we have to think about who our president is, right? We are used to seeing our last president respond on Twitter in ways that we've never seen a president engage Twitter before. And now we have a president who does not engage social media in that way. And that is, like, to put it lightly, right? They are very different personalities. So the idea that the White House Twitter account was going to be pretty sanitary and sanitized, and like, you know what I mean? And very like on message, that is something that we never got from the Trump administration. I'll remind you of like Infrastructure Week, right, at the White House, where every single time there was an infrastructure week, something crazy happened and there was no movement on infrastructure, right? And like there was never on message. And so I think the idea of the messaging of social media coming from the White House is an important thing to think about. But also just like the ways that Twitter works, right? Twitter is a place that loves a troll moment, right? Like, and so I remember when Wendy's, I think, was like one of the first corporations that we saw giving like trolling kind of commentary on social media, and that becoming like a BuzzFeed listicle and a thread and all kinds of other things, where we're seeing like companies and organizations start to have some personality online. Right. And I think that one of the major things that has really, really resonated with me over the course of the Trump campaign and presidency, and now in post, the importance of the narrative is so important. Like, it can't be overstated, right? Especially when we look at other countries like Russia and China, where the state media controls the message, but that also controls the narrative out in culture and the way that really kind of shapes public opinion and then politics, right? So all of those things are so important. And when we see the White House pushing back and being like, look, that's not honest, right? That's not true. And having a little bit of snark with it, it says to me that they know their platform. Right. And like they're trying to engage it in a way that is relevant, but also like wanting to say something about to have something to say in the narrative.
Well, I think the trolling fits the aviator glasses that Biden wears, so you get this cool persona of this president, getting off the airplane with his aviators. And now you got him on Twitter's, there's a great photo of like someone who just purchased gas, and it shows the lower gas prices. And there's a photo of his head and he's pointing like, I did that. Like gangster Biden, like, yeah, that's me, those lower gas prices. So I just love it. Someone says they hired a new 25-year-old. I don't know if that's true or not, but, whoever's doing this new posting for the president, keep doing it. I love it. Twitter loves a troll, as you just said. So we just hope that, he continues. I think it's brilliant. Let's talk about our friend Tyler Perry. I was on Martha's Vineyard when he was previewing, his new biop, this jazz, story that they say he's been working on for 25 years, his pet project, The Jazz Man's Blues. The trailer dropped recently, and the response again has been pretty brutal. Lots of folks on Black Twitter in particular complaining about, does Tyler Perry hate Black women? Does he hate dark-skinned women? They don't like the storyline. Apparently, it's a mixed race woman who poses as white but falls in love with this Black jazz artist. What are you thinking about Tyler and his relationship with women, Black women in particular? Okay, all right, Jared.
Areva, why would you?
Okay, Jared, tell me what you really think.
Areva, now I feel like I thought we were friends. I thought there was love between us. I thought that there was something special here. But to put me in this position, so here's the thing. I host a show called Fans. The show is based on this idea of being a fan of something and also having anti-feelings about it. We literally pitched this show with Tyler Perry, right? Like we pitched it as like, we want to do an episode on Tyler Perry and we can talk about like how incredible the business is and how like he's so inspirational and aspirational and all the things. And then you look at the content. Right. It's a challenge. I have told myself to make it okay for myself. I am just not the audience for Tyler Perry's movies. Okay. Right. I don't want to say how good or bad they are. I don't want to say that I'm into of them. I don't want to say any of that. Right. Like that's not important. What I am talking, that was a bit of a humble brag. I mean, why did I get married?
I was sleep on. I heard it. Okay. I was asking
you. Have your any legal wisdom, mommy. Let me have mine.
I want to know which two you dropped that in the chat. Which two you were in, so I can make sure.
I got you. But like I'm always challenged by Tyler's choices, and I think that Tyler is always giving us something that is from his heart. But I just you know what? How I sum it up. I respect the grind. And I told someone I think Kevin Hart is the new Tyler Perry because I went to the premiere of Me Time. Netflix laid out the red carpet for this premiere. Kevin put a lot of people to work. Kevin has a Black woman and a Black man running that production company where he's just cranking out movies. So I was like giving the brother, big props for what he is doing. Now the story, I wasn't even, I love popcorn. So I was just having me, a fun moment because I love show popcorn at the movies. But it doesn't matter. Stop. Hold on. No, hold on. Stop. Cause see.
No, see, really,
you're playing too much with me. You're playing.
No, really. And Regina Hall is my girl. So Regina's in it. And Mark Wahlberg. I love Mark Wahlberg. Contraband, one of my favorite movies. So I'm just sitting there thinking of all the checks that got written because Kevin Hart is big like that, you know? And I know in 2 or 3 more months, it's going to be another movie and it's going to be another one. And he's just moving in his way, you know, producing his way to billionaire status. And he's bringing a whole lot of people along with him. So you can't fight that.
I just want to say for your producers, for your social media folk, the clip is Areva saying, I went to the movie and I love movie theater popcorn, so I enjoyed it. Like, that's the moment, right? But like, I hear you. The thing is, like, our first episode of Fanti was on Kevin Hart, right? Like, there's something that I really respect and love about like Kevin Hart as an archetype. Every time I see a Chase commercial and he's asking me about where I'm spending my money or keeping it or whatever, I'm like, well, I've been at Chase, right, for a number of years. Gabrielle Union, I see you in these commercials too, right? I'm excited to see these people winning and getting opportunities and setting themselves up for like future wealth and success. I also don't always love the content that they're giving, and I recognize that I might not be the audience for it. Amen?
Yeah.
Like, and Tyler Perry.
Yeah, we say that. And Kevin is big heart. I love Kevin. He gave my nonprofit $100,000 last year. So as much as he continues, I know as long as he continues to make those movies, he continues to give back to his community. And I love him for that. Last topic I got to talk to you about before I let you go is The Office, this uber popular sitcom from the early 2000s. 2005, they did an episode called Diversity Day. Yes. And Steve Carell, you know, he's this bumbling, fumbling kind of corporate idiot who's in charge and has all this responsibility, but doesn't have a clue about how to make good decisions. But the CW pulled Diversity Day because the racist tropes that are used throughout this episode. And the fans were livid. Fans were upset. And they took to Twitter saying, wait a damn minute. You know, we can watch this because it's this episode making light of corporations' failed attempts at diversity. It's actually mocking companies. But CW said not so in 2022. You think right decision, wrong decision? What do you think?
I have a hard time when it comes to like these kind of censorship kind of conversations. Because I will tell you, The Office is something that's always been challenging for me because I've never really found it that funny. Right. And like my friends love the show and they're like, oh, it's so great. Like, it's so fantastic. I love this, that, and the other about it. It's never really connected with me. And I remember watching Diversity Day and like I've gotten through like maybe half of the first season, really giving it a college try. And like Diversity Day just made me feel like, why are we doing this? Right. Like, I get that it is diversity for white people. Right. It is conversation around this in a way that like people engage and appreciate. It has never hit for me. I've had this longstanding theory that in the era of Donald Trump that we still exist within, like, I don't think that The Office would play on network TV in the same way that it did when it aired. And I think about that in juxtaposition to a show like like 30 Rock. Right. 30 Rock was a show that was like self-referential and recognized that it was being ridiculous and like made fun of itself, right? I think it could maybe work today on network television. Whereas The Office, literally a streamer is pulling an episode off the air, right? Like, I think that The Office is a show that I could see a Trump supporter seeing and feeling made fun of as opposed to being in on the joke. Or being a part of the conversation. And I'm curious how that would play on network today, because I don't know that it would hit the same.
Steve Carell said himself, he doubts that if the show was being pitched in this era, it would have ever been greenlit. So you agree that it should have been pulled? Or are you saying yes? Or, you know, that's a coming to...
I don't know that. I don't think that the idea of pulling it is hard for me because I feel like we see conservatives pulling things all over the place. And like the idea of hiding things out of history is really really feels, exceptionally white to me. And so like the idea of acting like this thing didn't happen, not discussing it, not being able to say like, this is how this happened in time or whatever, like maybe that means that they need to have a conversation around what they did, right? So like every time we've seen an episode like this pulled from something, my first instinct is rather than pulling the episode, let's get together with the writers and the creator and the actors and talk about why we did what we did here and how it lands today, as opposed to acting like Diversity Day didn't happen.
Yeah, I really love what you said, and maybe Comedy Central will watch this and think about airing it again. And rather than, as you said, trying to hide history, is embrace it and deal with it. Because I'm thinking of every episode like Diversity Day, which if we started pulling them, I mean, I don't know if we'd have anything to watch because there's a whole lot of stuff on network, on streaming sites, on social media that on any given day, you could feel like you're being assaulted. It's so offensive, but can't get rid of everything. We got to have these hard and difficult conversations. Thank you so much, Jared, for helping us make sense of all of this pop culture. So much else I didn't even have a chance to get to. Obviously, Beyonce is the biggest thing that happened this summer as well, that Renaissance drop that she did in only the way that she could do it. And Lizzo,
the good thing is,
with that amazing speech at the VMAs. So lots going on. You keep us apprised of all of this pop culture. We'll make sure to follow you. Where can we follow you and keep up with all the great work you're doing?
You can find me everywhere at Jarrett Hill, 2 R's and 2 T's, as you see down here on the screen. 2 R's, 2 T's everywhere. And we're in Beyonce season for months, so you got more time to be able to talk about B.
I'll have you back. We'll have a whole Beyonce episode. Thank you so much, Jared. Be well, my friend.
I'll see you.
All right. Can't talk about the news if we don't talk about politics. So much going on in political news. And of course, my good friend Richard Green, political strategist, Democratic consultant, and author of Words That Shook the World, is here to help us make sense of this political news. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Areva, and welcome back. And by the way, I want to create a little segue. I'd be willing to bet a lot that Chris Rock will be hosting the Oscars.
Okay, you heard it here.
It's incredible bargaining position for him to come out as strongly against it. And they're going, no, you want an extra 20 million. We really need you. We can't do the show without you.
Well, go for it, Chris. Be the highest paid Oscar hosting talent on the planet. I'm here for it.
He will be.
Speaking of a lot of money, Richard, our great president, Joe Biden, wipes out $1.5 billion. I don't think Chris is going to get $1.5 billion, but President Biden wiped out $1.5 billion in student loan debt for borrowers by executive order. But even before the ink was dry on that order, Republicans started whining, harping about it being unconstitutional and unfair. Folks confronting Elizabeth Warren on national television, jacking her up about how hard they work and how they paid for their kids' college and they paid off their loans. And why do those slackers, those lazy people, cold for Black and brown people in my mind, why are they getting, their debt forgiven when us good American white folks work hard and pay off our loan debt? What do you think? I mean, Margie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, all of them got loan relief for their PPP loans, and big businesses bailouts, corporate bailouts, airlines, banks, you name it. There's some corporate money out there for these big corporations and these wealthy guys. So the little guy gets a little bit and everybody's going crazy. Makes sense.
I so want to see Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and all the other members of Congress pay back their PPP loans. That's my real focus. And I don't know if we can legislatively do that since it has been forgiven, but I'll tell you, it all comes down to messaging. And I do love our great president, Joe Biden. He's already historic. And it's quite amazing that the other side doesn't see it that way, even though they're being helped massively as well. It's all about messaging. I know you're going to be shocked to hear me say that. Here's the messaging that I think Joe Biden should have done and still can do. I think instead of it being forgiveness or debt cancellation, I think it should be retroactively refunding the excess federal interest that was charged to students because we have made them a freaking profit center. And I think what we do is we just do the math and say, we want to, students, our next doctors, lawyers, scientists, teachers, are the future of this country as much, if not, excuse me, even more than the big banks. And why should students be paying double or triple the interest rates, federal interest rates, of big banks and big corporations with the prime rate? So if he had done it that way and done the math and say, hey, I'm just saying we're reordering our priorities. We don't want to make money off these students, and we are reimbursing the excess interest that they paid.
Great messaging, and you're right, it's not too late, and I would not be surprised if we didn't start to hear that in some of these elections that are coming up. We're right up on those midterms, so not too late to change that message. Let's talk about the midterms, Richard.
Hold on, and I think we should change it moving forward. You want to be a hero to the next generation who is in college or going to college? Let's say you're getting the same rate that Goldman Sachs and the big banks are getting.
I love it. I love it. Parity. A word.
Parity. Okay, the midterms. Yeah, I heard about those.
Yeah, Liz Cheney. Everyone said she was going to lose in Wyoming. I don't know if anyone thought it was going to be such a landslide. 70% of voters in her state rejected her. She's also now, though, talking about running for president. So the question is, if she can't win a congressional race in a tiny little state like Wyoming, is she running for president just to stay relevant, to raise money? Like, what's the purpose here? And do you think she should do it?
Two thoughts. First of all, the moment the polls closed in Wyoming a couple weeks ago was the historic, precise moment that the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Liz Cheney died. It's done. It's over. It's buried 20 feet underground. It will never come back, not in a short period of time. I love Liz Cheney's courage, her integrity, her guts, unbelievable. But I have a message. First of all, she has no path to be president of the United States, none. She is a political refugee. She has no place to go, right? She's not going to win a Republican primary. She's not going to win a Democratic primary. And if she runs as an independent, she's going to do 180 degrees from what she has dedicated herself to do, which is not allow Donald Trump to become president. So there's no path. I also want to say to all these people who are so emotionally connected to Liz Cheney, you cannot vote for this woman. You cannot vote for this woman. She stands for nothing that Black people, brown people, progressives, young people want. Nothing other than the fact that she has integrity, which is lovely. Let's give her an award. Let's give her some honor and send her back to go ride horses in Wyoming.
Say it louder, Richard, for the people in the back of the room. I am so glad you said that, because as a woman, sometimes it's a little sensitive when you tell people that this other woman is the Antichrist. She is not. Don't get it twisted. She's doing a great job. And as a lawyer, I respect what she's done in terms of her skills on that committee. But as you have just said, her whole life has been dedicated to voting for and supporting policies that are absolutely horrible for women, for people that look like me, for marginalized people, for working class people. Liz Cheney is no hero. Okay, got that out the way. Let's talk about some of these other GOP candidates. Richard, they're scrubbing their websites. Imagine that. They ran in the primaries based on these extreme Trumpian type policies. They won in their GOP primaries. Now they've got to go up against a Dem in the general. And lo and behold, they don't necessarily believe that Donald Trump won the election. They don't want all of that denier, rhetoric on their websites. And all of a sudden, they're not so in favor of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. What do you make of these ultra hypocrites? And what are people to do when they're confronted with these people who are like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Are you calling the Republicans hypocrites? My goodness, that's never been said before out of your mouth or mine.
Oh,
no.
I wish I had a better word than hypocrite, because that word is not even, that's too gentle a word.
Well, I do. Mike Bloomberg, during the Democratic convention in 2016, stood up and publicly said Donald Trump is a con. He could be the greatest con man in the history of the world, putting P.T. Barnum and all of those people to shame. The Republican followers of Donald Trump have tried to be as artful in conning, and that's what they're doing. They tried to con their Republican base, and now they're trying to con the Democratic independent base. I think so. Here's the bottom line, Areva. I wrote a piece in Medium recently. It's called "It's Almost Impossible to Vote for a Republican, ... after you read this." Richard Green, Medium. And I went through, took like 5 hours. I went through all of the vote totals because math doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. They can talk all they want, but their voting records on everything, on George Floyd, on John Lewis, on insulin, on climate change, on everything is totally against. I mean, it's literally like 99.5% of Democrats voted for those things in the House. And like 99.5% of Republicans voted against those things, everything. So I think we need to have a more tangible, pragmatic metric on how to evaluate politicians. I don't give a shit what you say, especially in a general election after you've been saying something the opposite in the primaries. How did you vote, and how are you going to vote? Are you interested in legalizing weed, for example? That's a big issue, and the country is way against the Republicans. Guess how many people voted to legalize weed? Just 2 or 3, right? I mean, let's get them on their actual positions rather than these big messaging things where they're trying to say, oh, I'm going to fight for you on this, and look at inflation. And I mean, they have nothing to run on, especially when you look at the receipts.
Yeah, no, such a great point. Some of these California Republicans who were actually the sponsors of a bill to nationalize banning abortion, when questioned about it by local reporters, are saying things like, well, I don't want to talk about hypotheticals. Hypotheticals? It's a bill that you sponsor. There's nothing hypothetical about that. So you're right. Don't listen to what they say. Check the receipts, check their voting records, because that's the information that you need. Speaking of which, Lindsey Graham.
Here are the 3 things, if you care about these 3 things, you should vote Republican. They're going to impeach Joe Biden if they get into the House majority. They're going to impeach Merrick Garland. And they're going to pass a bill to nationally ban abortions. If you want any or all of those things, God bless you, vote Republican.
Yeah, no, and that's just the beginning of that long list of things that they're going to do. I'm thinking of all the people they're going to probably pardon, all of these criminals, like the insurrectionists, right, that they call tourists. We'll see all of them that, have gone through this long process of prosecuting and getting them finally put away in jail. We'll probably see all those folks running around free, ready for the next insurrection, which Lindsey Graham says is coming if his best friend, if his golf buddy, if, the former president is prosecuted or indicted. He says there's going to be riots in the streets. What is Lindsey Graham thinking? Who was he trying to intimidate? And, who is the audience for this? Like, what do you mean riots in the street?
Well, the saddest thing, listen, Lindsey Graham is the most entertaining politician in our lifetime. And talk about flip-flops and hypocrisy and all of this. But the truth is, and the sad point, the scary point is he's probably right. I mean, I've been on podcasts where I've had podcast hosts say, you take away my guns and we're going out into the streets. I mean, that's their thing. They're just jonesing for some testosterone proof of their male sexuality of something. I don't know, but they are trying for this, Areva.
But who cares? Let them take to the streets. There are more of us. There's more law enforcement. There's more military that now Donald Trump doesn't control. Joe Biden actually controls our military. And I have the utmost faith in our ability to put down very quickly any riots that these, MAGA people would try to, execute if the president who is committing crimes is indicted, or if he's treated like every other citizen that breaks the law. Are we to be intimidated as a nation by those threats?
Another reason I love you. You and I totally agree on this. On the podcast, I said, bring it on, dude. Bring it on. You really think that with all your AR-15s, you're going to defeat the United States military? Good luck on you.
Yeah, good luck on that. And that would just prove, perhaps finally, our point that these people, they can't win in the courts. Donald Trump has filed a gazillion lawsuits. He loses every one of them. He's been impeached twice. So now you take to the streets. What happened to the law and order party that believed in law and order, now threatening violence? That is the irony of this, Richard. This is the party that's supposed to be for law and order. Are they going to put the lives of police officers at stake? They're going to send police officers into crowds of, vamped up mobs? Where is the support for the police?
There's a simple answer to this. This is a cult. They have an irrational, Christian nationalist fueled emotional connection to the least Christian human being that I've ever even heard of. And how many MAGA Trump supporters have you been able to get to think logically?
I gave
Zero.
up. No, you're right. And thank you for using that word cult, because that's what we're talking about. And you can't talk rationally to someone who has been so brainwashed. There's no reasoning with them.
I've tried.
No talking, logic or using logic. They are so in their heads and so committed to this cult, the cult of Donald Trump, to, as you said, Liz Cheney, her defeat. There went the Republican Party that we all knew. It's gone. It's the party of one. It's the cult of one, which brings me to Biden calling the MAGA crowd semi-fascist when he was stumping for Wes Moore in Maryland, who's running for governor, is likely to be the first Black governor of that state. People lost their minds. Republicans are saying, "Oh, he's the president. He's not supposed to be putting Republicans down." Like, what? Like, isn't that what we do in this country? The Dems attack the Republicans and the Republicans attack the Dems. Isn't that what we do every day?
I had a problem with that statement, though. I think the word or the four letters semi completely inappropriate.
Totally. No,
they're fascists. It is fascism. It's Christian nationalism and fascism. And I love that, Joe campaigned on no malarkey. That was him doing no malarkey. I'm just telling it as it is.
And, to validate Joe's point, and I agree with you, drop the semi. Let's just call it what it is. We're big boys and big girls in this country. Donald Trump, on his very small, fledgling, unsuccessful social media platform, was talking about being reinstated. Reinstated, Richard, not reelected, not running for president again and going through the process of being elected by the country, by the democratic process, but by reinstatement. If that's not fascist, what is?
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to the article that I wrote right after the election in 2016, and I know you know this, on the Huffington Post, entitled, "Is Donald Trump Mentally Ill?" And he is. And he lives in a delusional world. He, like Putin, will never, ever, 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 ever admit that he's wrong or admit weakness. And he's just got to keep going. And we have to stop being so shocked that he says all this shit.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we have to deal with him the way we deal with other delusional people. We can't expect him to change. We can't expect him to admit fault. We can't expect his followers to do so. But we have to hold him accountable in the way that everyone else is held accountable, which brings me to the biggest story of the summer, which is the raid, the Mar-a-Lago raid, the FBI literally showing up, search warrant in hand, searching the private residence of an ex-president, taking boxes and boxes of documents out of that residence that were taken illegally, removed from the White House, have been stored in this unsecure location for over 18 months, attempt after attempt, pleas, begging, pleading with this man to give them back. Lies after lies after lies by Donald Trump, even signed, fabricated letters from his attorneys stating that he had given all the documents back. And now these ever evolving excuses from the documents were planted to I declassified everything, to you now have taken my attorney-client confidential records and I'm entitled to a master to review them and to have them returned to me. I mean, have we ever seen anything like this before? Ex-president's private resident being raided by the FBI?
No, we haven't. And it was a totally, you and I are both lawyers, a totally legal search warrant. It's very hard to get them. And the proof was so plentiful. But I blame Joe Biden and Merrick Garland for this a little bit, because the message, the narrative got seized in those days where nothing was being said. If I were Merrick Garland or even Joe Biden, although I think he was disconnected from the process, as he should be, I would have gone out and said, we're going to do something that is historic, and I want to tell you why we are doing it, right? As much as could be shared without violating any sort of confidential stuff or threatening the investigation. The fact that they allowed Lindsey Graham and Sean Hannity and Matt Gaetz, all these people, to steal the narrative, once you've lost the narrative, it's almost impossible to get it back. So we are stuck with millions and millions of MAGA Trump, MAGA Republicans who will always believe that there was planted evidence and that this was a political witch hunt. And we have to deal with that. And my thing, though, is I call this obsession with Donald Trump after, 7 years, Trump porn. And we have to end our Trump porn addiction, because we've got November 8th. And if you really want to do something to help the country get beyond Trump and Trumpism, you got to defeat every possible Trump supporter running anywhere in the country. That should be our focus.
No, great advice. And obviously there are people like Herschel Walker in Georgia, Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania. These guys are jokes. They are jokes. They don't need to be anywhere near the seat of power, anywhere near our government, the levers of power, because Donald Trump has shown us they cannot handle it. They are so ill prepared. Herschel Walker, I don't even know if he is sane. I mean, I think as a person who is a disability rights advocate, I think he has a true disability. He is not and should not. There's some disabled people who are completely competent and capable of running companies and the government. He does not happen to be one of them. So this is no knock on disabled people, because I love them, and there's many of them are incredibly intelligent and competent. And this guy, though, there's something wrong with Herschel in particular. But let me ask you this, Richard. Is this raid something that's going to benefit Democrats at the polls come November?
I think that if Donald Trump gets indicted between now and November 8th, which we all hope he will in a way, that could destroy Democrats' chances in the midterms.
Then it would destroy them. Then it would hurt us if he's indicted.
I think right now we have a slight benefit, right? But if he gets indicted, every single Republican is going to go drive around their town and get everyone to vote against the system, the machine, the secret style, whatever it is that's out to get their guy. I think we need to focus on one main thing, and that is, if you want women to ever again have reproductive rights in this country. Oh, did I lose you? Can you see me?
No, I think we're having some technical problems. We're going to try to fix that.
Hold on, I got it. I think I can get back here.
Yeah, there you go. Great save.
Here's the thing. Let's just be adults, right? if you want women to ever again, because it could be that we never have this again in the United States, right? Supreme Court is not going to change their mind, right?
Oh.
And the only way to do it is to elect 270 people who support the restoration of reproductive rights. We have 268. Judy Chu, Congresswoman Judy Chu, has a bill, the Women's Health Protection Act, that'll overrule the Supreme Court, codify Roe v. Wade, and immediately restore reproductive rights to Americans. We need to keep the House, and we need to pick up 2 more senators, Democratic senators in the Senate, and then it's done. So I don't honestly think it's useful. Sorry.
No, keep going. We can hear you. You're saying good stuff here. You're really making a great point about staying focused and not letting Donald Trump and his sideshow take us off our game.
Right. So here's the thing. I don't really care about Herschel Walker's personality or how smart he is or how smart he isn't, or Dr. Oz, who I used to know. He's no longer a friend. All I care about is what are they going to vote on or for and against? And Dr. Oz will not vote to restore women's reproductive rights. He will not vote for the John Lewis, Voting Rights Act. He will not vote for the George Floyd Justice and Police. He won't do that. So, and either will any Republican running for the House or the Senate. No Republican is going to help get abortion rights back, get civil rights, get voting rights, get marijuana legalized. None of them will. And so we have to move to an era of political communication beyond this social personality thing. It's like, oh, I like them, I don't like them, they're cool, they're smart. No, how are they going to vote? We have to get real. We have to put on our adult thinking and say, I need to vote whether I like Catherine Cortez Masto or not in Nevada. Mm-hmm. I have to get out and vote for her if I want any of those things, because the Republican in that race and every race will make that impossible. And if we lose the White House in 2024, that's another 4 years where we're not going to get the restoration of reproductive rights. And then if Ron DeSantis gets reelected, that's a total of 10 years. Mm-hmm. Right? But we can fix that on November 8th in one night. And that should be the focus. And I do not want Donald Trump to distract from that. I don't want him indicted so that he inflames this crazy MAGA crowd to vote at 100% instead of 60%, because that's going to flip all of our progress that we've made.
No, those are excellent, excellent points. And Kansas showed us that we can run on We can run on the issue of women's reproductive rights and reproductive choices. And there are plenty of independents out there that believe the same way the Democrats, that the Republicans have gone too far, not only overturning Roe v. Wade, but enacting all of these state laws that penalize, give women and doctors and other people associated with abortions life in prison in some of these states. Make it impossible, force women to carry babies that don't have brains, don't have hearts, don't have, body parts, but force them to carry to term fetuses that they know will die, will be stillborn, or will have so many complications that they'll die shortly after birth. That's a winning issue for Democrats. And it's been proven in the midterms, and I'm with you. Let's stay focused on that. And if we win, guess what? The House and the Senate, we keep Merrick Garland. His indictment will not expire. In 3 months and 4 months, he can still go and arrest, because we must arrest and incarcerate Donald Trump, because we have to prove that no one, even an ex-president white man, is not above the law. But we can do it November 9th, Richard.
November 9th, exactly. Election day is November 8th. Indictment day is November 9th. Let's put that out.
Merrick Garland, listen to us. We're smart people. We know what we're talking about. We do not want, and I agree with you, forget Lindsey Graham and his so-called riot. We don't care about that, because we can quell that pretty quickly.
Bring it on.
I don't want the sideshow of an indictment messing up our powerful women's reproductive rights arguments, which are winning. And they're winning elections, and they're winning elections in tough races. So let's stay focused. Thank you so much, Richard, for joining me. Thanks for helping us make sense of all this crazy news. In a couple of weeks, we'll be back at those hearings. We'll be hearing about how Donald Trump raised $250+ million on the big lie, yet another reason to indict him on November 9th for fraud. So many of these crimes are so plain. And Fani Willis in Georgia, moving on not only Donald Trump, but Rudy Giuliani and, the cast of characters involved in that tampering with the vote count in Georgia. So there's going to be so many opportunities to indict this guy, both on federal and state charges. But let's do it after those critical midterms. Be well, my friend.
So I just want to say I've really gotten into TikTok. Please follow me at Civicstein. TikTok at Civicstein. TikTok
I
is
love
an awesome
it. I'm
vehicle.
going to go do that immediately. Let's all follow Richard Green on TikTok and learn something about politics and messaging and how we win, how we do the math and we win big in November. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks, Areva.
Wow, it's been great. My first day back. Always a pleasure to get down and talk to super smart people who have their fingers on the pulse of this nation and everything that's happening to help us break down all this crazy news. I want to thank Richard again. Thank Jared for joining me this morning. Super excited about the rest of the week. Got some great shows coming up. Quick words to live by before I get out. Wow, I've had a lot of incredible life experiences. Seem like all jammed into this August in my vacation. And taught me a lot, reminded me at least that life is not just about being rich or popular or perfect. Life is about being real, being humble, kind, and unapologetically you. And that's what we are on the Special Report. Be safe out there. Remember, folks, we are all in this together.